Ladies and gentlemen, before we get into the Senate race of the state of Indiana, I wanted to bring up this Kavanaugh issue and give you my feelings and sentiments. I think what seems to be missing in both the media and the Democratic Party is the requirement of some level of proof that a crime has taken place. In the case of Miss Ford, what they're basically saying is because she made the claim, and it's so hard to come forward, regardless of whether it was done by somebody else and she's just mistaken ID'd, we're supposed to believe her, and the person that she's accusing is supposed to be tarred and feathered. I watched the entire hearing and all the questioning yesterday. What I was looking for was proof. Show me something that backs up your story. She gave 4 names of people at the party. None of the 4, including her best friend, who she went to the party with, will confirm that party even took place, let alone with any sexual misconduct taking place. And her best friend, after she wrote the letter to Congress stating that she does not remember any such party, emailed her and apologized and said, I had to tell the truth. I mean, her best friend. So the Democrats are running around like any charge that's made just because they made it is real. Today, he cleared the Judiciary Committee and it goes to the floor for a vote. But as I understand it, there are at least 3 Republicans that are having issues voting for him. Obviously, Murkowski, who's a Democrat from Alaska, although she wears the Republican label. Flake, if you saw the hearing, he flaked out at the end and he wants an FBI investigation. Apparently he's not familiar with the problems that the FBI have cleared all Democrats and go out of their way to charge all Republicans. Even though the report that would be issued would be benign, it would add credence to claims because the Democrats would instantly scream, this is what happened, the FBI's confirmed it. Well, the FBI confirms nothing. They submit to Congress what's called a 302. What a 302 does is details the conversations that they had with all of the different parties, and it makes no claim of guilt or innocence for anyone. But the Democrats want it badly because it legitimizes those complaints. I hope the Republicans are smart enough not to go there. I also hope the Republicans are smart enough to nominate him and get him on the Supreme Court, because if they don't, I think they're going to have problems come November. That's the only thing I think stands in the way of a red wave, is Kavanaugh. Now, the original intent of this video was for Indiana. Let's go over here to click on it. As you can see, Braun versus Donnelly versus Brenton. You have a Democrat, a Republican, and a Libertarian. The Libertarians are always tossed in hoping to siphon votes from Republicans so that they'll push the race to the Democrat. In this case, though, I don't think it's going to work. And Donnelly just came out a little while ago and said he was going to vote no on Kavanaugh. And before he said he was going to vote no, you'll notice that Braun had already taken a 2-point lead. What's even more important about this is the Libertarian has dropped from 8 to 3. And keep in mind, Fox News, the polling company that they use, is extremely liberal. That's why you'll see Democrats doing better with Fox than many of the other networks. Another thing that you have to pay attention to is right now, in this point of the cycle in an election, is when the fake polls hit en masse. And that's when the Democrats, it looks like this big blue wave is building and the Republicans are going to get smashed. And then they don't start correcting those polls until about a week out from Election Day. And all of a sudden, those big leads vanish. And all of a sudden, it's 3 points, 2 points, 5 points. So here we are in this cycle where the Democrat should be up by 8, up by 9, up by 10, regardless of the truth. And yet they're showing Braun with a +2. This tells you something, that the Republicans are going to take Indiana. It is, in my opinion, no longer a toss-up. This is the worst time for a Democrat to be behind in the polls. Right now, every Republican should be behind in the polls. Let's go on up here to Indiana, and let's give that not only a leans right, but a solid right. I think it's fair to conclude that it's going to happen. I think there are also more seats that are going to go ahead and flip. Right now, I'm inclined to believe that New Jersey is headed towards a red flip. We have a lot of anecdotal evidence, even though the polls right now are saying that the Republican is about 8 points behind. The fact of the matter is, if you really look at the race, it tells you that there's no 8 points there, and the undecideds normally break against the incumbent 3-1, and that easily puts the Republican in that seat. But I'm not ready to make that call yet. Everything else I'm fairly comfortable with. Even down here in Florida, you'll notice that recent polls have Nelson moving ahead by 1 or 2 points. Keep in mind, this is the point in the cycle where they try to make it look like the big blue wave is coming, and when you can only get 1 or 2 points up and you're in the 40s as an incumbent, I'm sorry, you're going to lose on Election Day. I don't think it's going to be a big victory for Scott there. I'm honestly inclined to believe that he's going to pull 50 to 51% of the vote, just enough to make the Senate seat turn red. Everything else so far appears to be going as originally projected, although there has been some nuances that have taken place that have affected the races. Some short term, but they're already starting to clear themselves. Many of the polls are leaning a little bit heavier towards the Democratic Party, but what surprises me is the number of them that are remaining red at this point in the cycle, even if it's only 1 or 2 points. My historical pattern that I've calculated on Election Day is take the good polls from the week leading up to the poll, those last 3 or 4 polls, average them, and then give the Republicans 4 points. So if 3 days out from election, your candidate, your Democrat, has a 7-point lead, odds are he's going to keep the seat or take it. But if there are 2 or 3 points going into those last 3 days, odds are the wave is going to bend and take out those Democrats. Just as a confirmation of what I'm saying, let's go over here. Here is a poll that was released Monday, a week ago. Not quite a week ago, 5 days ago. The poll numbers were released by Gallup, and as you can see, the Democrat Party advantage among women suffered a 6-point swing over the past year, according to Gallup. Now, in each of the categories that they went through, there is a move towards the Republican Party, and we've been seeing that in a lot of other polls that have been taken, reference voter sentiment. Now, this is very good news, especially considering that Gallup has always tended to lean, and they really don't lean. What they do is they oversample Democrats. So if this kind of news can come out of an organization that oversamples Democrats, I can assure you it's much better than this. Now let's go take a look at another poll that was released a few days later, this one from Pew Research. Now if you go through this poll, the Democrats are just walloping the Republicans in every category. It's just terrible. But the reality of the situation is that as you read through this, what you find out is it is Democrats and Republicans, and they have left out independents. What's really exciting, though, is that Republicans are going to be voting much more than normal, several points over their highest ever. And if you believe this, the Democrats are going to come out in mass. And we've had a variety of other polling data that suggests an awful lot of Democrats aren't going to be showing up. So what this is one of those, ooh, Washington, keep the war on Kavanaugh going, you're winning. The problem with that philosophy is The hardcore socialist left is absolutely energized. We've seen that in all the primaries. But the moderate Democrats are not coming out to vote. They really aren't. The moderate Democrats are not liking this socialist slant, and there's an awful lot of people, Democrats, that are going to get hurt because those moderate Democrats probably aren't going to show up on Election Day based on recent polling data that I showed you. And this is all going to topsy-turvy all these numbers. And this Pew Research, this is exactly what you expect at this time in the election cycle, because they want the media talking about the blue wave and how the Republicans are going to lose the House and lose the Senate, and they want to demoralize Republicans and hope to keep them away from the ballot box. But the more and more I read, the more and more this Kavanaugh thing has energized Republicans in a very big way, and I think they're going to reap what they sowed come November. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you'll take the time to like and subscribe. And don't forget to share. We don't show up on any search engines, so the only way people can find us if you share us on social media. With that said, we'll see you in the next video.